You are not failing because you lack talent. You are failing because you lack a bulletproof mindset. Most people collapse when the pressure mounts, but you are not most people. In the next 1 hour, we are dismantling the fragile version of you and forging an identity that is immune to rejection, fatigue, and self-doubt. This isn't just about trying to be better. It is about building the mental armor required to become the person who never gives up on their goals, no matter the cost. Listen closely, because I am only going to say this once. You are currently living a life built on a foundation of stories, excuses, and justifications. You spend half of your day explaining to yourself, your friends, and your colleagues why you aren't where you want to be. You have a reason for everything. You have a reason for why you didn't finish that project. You have a reason for why you didn't go to the gym today. You have a reason for why your bank account is empty, and your dreams are sitting on a shelf collecting dust. Stop it. Right now, you need to hear the hard truth. Your explanations are the poison killing your progress. You have a choice. You can be a person who explains their failure, or you can be a person who executes their vision. You cannot be both. That's the key. Every time you offer an explanation, you are handing away your power. You are telling the world, and more importantly, you are telling your own subconscious, that your circumstances are in charge of you. You are saying that the traffic, the weather, your childhood, or your boss has more influence over your life than your own will. That is a lie. When you explain, you seek comfort. You seek a soft place to land. You want someone to nod their head and say, "Oh, I understand. It's not your fault." But I am not here to make you feel better. I am here to make you better. You don't need their permission to succeed, and you don't need their understanding to execute. Execution is the only language the world respects. The world does not care about your intentions. It does not care about your why or your vision board or your plans if they never leave your head. The world only cares about what you actually do. You can have the best intentions in the history of the world, but if you spend your day explaining instead of doing, you are effectively doing nothing. You are running in place. You are burning energy without moving an inch. It is time to stop explaining and start executing. This needs to become your new default setting. It needs to become your identity. Think about your daily routine. How much of your day is spent defending your position? How much time do you spend talking about what you are going to do instead of simply doing it? When you explain, you are stalling. You are creating a buffer zone between yourself and the work. You are afraid that if you actually start, you might fail, or worse, you might succeed and have to keep that level of performance up. So you explain. You justify. You rationalize. You need to kill that habit immediately. If you have a goal, execute it. If you have a task, finish it. Do not talk about the obstacles. The obstacles are there. Everyone has them. The people who win don't talk about the obstacles. They just navigate through them. That's the key. You don't need their permission to be excellent. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need their permission to stop making excuses. When you feel the urge to explain why something didn't get done, catch yourself. Stop mid-sentence. Swallow that explanation and replace it with action. If you missed a deadline, don't explain why. Simply state, "It will be done by tomorrow," and then go finish it. If you failed to hit a target, don't explain why. Simply say, "I am adjusting the approach," and then execute the new plan. This is how you reclaim your power. You have a choice. You can keep explaining your way into a mediocre life, or you can start executing your way into an extraordinary one. Execution is boring sometimes. It is repetitive. It is hard. It doesn't always feel good, but that is exactly why it works. Anyone can be excited about a project on the first day. Anyone can talk big when things are easy. But the people who are bulletproof, they are the ones who execute when they are tired. They are the ones who execute when they are frustrated. They are the ones who execute when they don't feel like it. That is the threshold of true toughness. If you wait until you feel motivated to execute, you will spend your life waiting. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to do it. Look at the gap between your potential and your reality. That gap is filled with your explanations. That space is clogged with the reasons you gave for why you couldn't, why you shouldn't, or why it wasn't the right time. Every time you explain, you widen that gap. Every time you execute, you close it. It is that simple. You are either building your life or you are building your excuses. You cannot do both. You have a choice. Choose execution. Choose to stop being the person who talks and start being the person who does. Your life is a direct reflection of your actions, not your intentions. If you want to know where you are going, look at what you did yesterday. If you are not happy with your current position, stop explaining why you are there and start executing the steps to get out. You have the power to change, but that power is locked behind the door of action. You cannot think your way into a new life. You cannot talk your way into a new life. You have to execute your way into it. You might be thinking, "But you don't understand my situation." There it is again. The explanation. The moment you start saying, "but," you are losing. You are giving away your control. You don't need their permission to change your situation. You don't need anyone to understand your struggle. You just need to take the next step. Whatever that step is, take it now. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. There are no perfect conditions. There is only execution. That's the key. As we move forward, understand that this is not about working harder in a vacuum. It is about working with a different mindset. You must strip away the noise. You must strip away the justifications. You must become a machine of execution. If you can master this, everything else becomes easier. If you cannot, nothing else matters. You have a choice. Are you going to be an explainer, or are you going to be an executor? That is the foundational question of your life. You have a choice right now. You can continue to harbor your explanations as if they are shields, but in reality, they are chains. You have a choice to break those chains today. You don't need their permission to be the master of your own fate. Once you stop explaining, you will find you have so much more energy for doing. You will stop worrying about how you look or what people think, and you will start worrying about results. And results, my friend, are the only thing that will bulletproof your life. This is where your transformation begins. At the moment you realize that your words have been the primary obstacle to your success. Now that you have decided to stop explaining, you must learn how to handle the internal world that creates these excuses in the first place. You have decided to act, but what happens when your feelings demand that you stop? That is the next battle you must win. Now that you have committed to stopping the excuses and starting the execution, you are going to face a new obstacle: your own feelings. You are going to feel tired. You are going to feel frustrated. You are going to feel unmotivated, annoyed, or even fearful. Most people treat these feelings like red lights. They feel off, so they stop. They feel uninspired, so they quit. You have to stop treating your emotions like they are the boss of your life. Feelings are data, not instructions. You do not have to obey them. That is the key. Understand this clearly. Your emotional state is a biological reaction to your environment, not a directive on how to behave. If you only act when you feel like it, you are a slave to your own chemistry. You have a choice. You can let your mood dictate your output, or you can dictate your output regardless of your mood. You don't need their permission to be productive when you feel like garbage. You don't need a perfect mental space to perform at the highest level. You just need to show up and do the work. Learn to act with clarity, even when you are frustrated, tired, or afraid. Think of your emotions like a dashboard in a car. They give you information: a check engine light, a fuel gauge, but they don't steer the vehicle. You are the driver. If the warning light for fatigue comes on, you don't park the car and give up. You acknowledge that you are tired, and you keep driving because you have a destination. Separate your internal emotional state from your external performance. If you can learn to work in total opposition to how you feel, you become impossible to stop. You are the driver, not the passenger, of your emotional life. Think about that for a second. Most people are passengers. They are buckled into the seat, watching the road, hoping the driver, their feelings, takes them somewhere nice. When their feelings turn down a dark alley of self-doubt or laziness, they just go along for the ride. That ends today. You are taking the wheel. When you are tired, you execute. When you are annoyed, you execute. When you are grieving, you execute. You have a choice. You can allow your brain to whine about the difficulty of the task, or you can allow your will to push you through it. That's the key. You don't need their permission to be a professional. Professionals don't wait for the right mood. They don't wait for inspiration. They show up, they do the job, and they maintain the standard regardless of how they feel inside. If you want to be bulletproof, you have to adopt this professional mindset. Your emotions are not the captain, they are the crew. Sometimes the crew is tired, sometimes they are complaining, but you are the captain. You decide where the ship goes. You decide what gets done. This is where many people fail. They give their emotions too much importance. They think their feelings are a deep, hidden truth about their reality. They aren't. They are just passing weather. One minute it's raining, the next it's sunshine. If you change your plan every time the weather changes, you will never get anywhere. You have a choice. You can stay in port waiting for the perfect day, or you can sail through the storm. The bulletproof person sails through the storm. Repetition is your friend here. When you feel the urge to stop because you're not feeling it, tell yourself out loud, "This feeling is not an instruction." Remind yourself that you are the driver. You don't need to feel energetic to be effective. You don't need to feel confident to be courageous. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of doing the work even though you are afraid. You have a choice. You can be paralyzed by your internal state, or you can be empowered by your discipline. That's the key. If you are waiting to feel like it, you are waiting to fail. It is that simple. The people who reach the top of their field are not the people who have the most motivation. They are the people who have the most consistency. They are the people who have mastered the art of detaching their output from their internal narrative. They don't have time to indulge in their emotions. They have goals to hit. They have a legacy to build. You have a choice. You can indulge in your feelings, or you can ignore them and get results. Every time you act against a negative emotion, you are building muscle. You are strengthening your character. It becomes easier the next time. Eventually, you will reach a point where your emotions become background noise. You will hear them, you will acknowledge them, but they won't influence your actions. You will become a person of pure, unadulterated intent. You don't need their permission to be this version of yourself. You just need to start making the conscious decision to separate your feelings from your actions. As we move forward, remember this. Your emotions are tools. They can be used to drive you, to inform you, and to focus you, but they cannot be allowed to control the steering wheel. Once you master this separation, you have conquered the biggest hurdle in your mental development. You have transformed from a reactive person into a proactive force. You have a choice. You can be ruled by your moods, or you can use your tools to build your future. Now that you are no longer a slave to your feelings, we have to look at what you are willing to sacrifice to make that future a reality. You are going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is what we are going to master next. You have stopped making excuses, and you have learned to sideline your emotions. You are taking control. But now, you are going to encounter the greatest test of all, the resistance. When you push toward greatness, life doesn't get easier. It gets harder. You will be tested. You will be pushed. You will feel the sting of growth. Most people see this resistance as a sign to stop, but you must learn to see it as a sign of progress. Comfort is a grave for your potential. Seek the discomfort of growth. That's the key. If you are not feeling challenged, you are not growing. It is that simple. If you are comfortable, you are stagnating. You have a choice. You can choose the safety of the status quo, or you can choose the agony of expanding your limits. The person who stays in their comfort zone is a person who will never discover what they are truly capable of. You don't need their permission to leave your comfort zone behind. You don't need their permission to be the one who does what others are too afraid to do. You just need to commit to the grind. If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. Think about every muscle in your body. It only grows when it is torn under the weight of a heavy load. Your mind is no different. You need the weight. You need the stress. You need the struggle. When you are in the middle of a difficult task and your mind is screaming at you to quit, recognize that moment for what it is. The precise point where your transformation is occurring. Welcome the resistance. It is the friction needed to polish your character. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain. They avoid hard conversations, they avoid difficult projects, and they avoid the discipline required to change their habits. They choose the short-term relief of comfort over the long-term benefit of growth. You are going to do the opposite. When you see a difficult challenge, you are going to run toward it. You are going to embrace the sweat, the struggle, and the exhaustion. Pain is temporary. The weakness of quitting is permanent. That is a truth you must tattoo onto your brain. You have a choice every single day. You can take the easy route, or you can take the route that demands everything you have. The easy route leads to a life of mediocrity. The hard route leads to the version of yourself you have always imagined. You don't need their permission to suffer for your goals. You don't need their permission to be the hardest worker in the room. You have to decide that you are willing to pay the price of admission to the top tier of performance. That price is discomfort. Repetition is your best weapon. When things get difficult, tell yourself, "This is the growth I asked for." When you feel like quitting, tell yourself, "I do not quit because I am tired. I quit when I am done." Remind yourself constantly that you are not looking for the easy way out. You are looking for the way through. You have a choice. You can let the agony of growth break you, or you can let it forge you into someone stronger. That's the key. Understand that resistance is a constant. Even when you achieve your goals, there will be new levels of challenge. There will be new barriers. But the difference is that you will no longer be afraid of them. You will know that the barrier is simply another opportunity to prove your mental toughness. You don't need their permission to be unbreakable. You just need to show up and face the heat. If you can learn to love the struggle, you will be unstoppable. You have to get comfortable with being the person who does the hard work, while everyone else is looking for an escape. You have to be the person who finds clarity in the chaos and strength in the struggle. You have a choice. You can be a casualty of the pressure, or you can be a master of it. By embracing the agony of growth, you are essentially hardening your mind against future failure. You are building the armor. As we conclude this chapter, remember that you are currently in the fire. Do not try to cool down. Do not try to retreat to the comfort you once knew. You are moving forward. You are changing. You are becoming something new. But once you have learned to embrace this pain, you must address the one thing that keeps most people from ever reaching their destination: their desperate need to be accepted by others. You have built the mental toughness, but now you must ensure that your sense of self is not tied to the opinions of the crowd. That is the next step to becoming truly bulletproof. You have built the resilience to face the struggle, but there is a hidden parasite that will kill your progress if you let it: the need to be liked. Most of your life, you have been subconsciously tailoring your decisions to meet the expectations of your peers, your family, or society. You want their approval. You want their validation. You want them to tell you that you are doing a good job. Stop it. Seeking approval from others is a voluntary leash you put on your own life. That's the key. Understand this. The moment you need someone else's permission to pursue your goals, you have already lost. Why? Because as soon as your success depends on their approval, your output becomes distorted. You stop doing what is necessary and start doing what is popular. You stop taking the risks that lead to breakthroughs because you are terrified of looking foolish. You don't need their permission to be excellent. You don't need their permission to ignore the critics. You need to kill the need for external validation, or it will kill your dreams. Think about the most successful people you admire. Do you think they spent their time asking for permission? Do you think they made decisions based on whether or not their neighbors agreed with them? Of course not. They operated from an internal standard. They established what was required of them, and they hit that mark, regardless of whether the crowd was cheering or throwing stones. The crowd is fickle. If you perform well, they love you today. If you have a bad day tomorrow, they will turn on you. If you build your identity on their opinions, you are building your house on sand. Focus on your internal standard, not the external opinion of the masses. You are the only person who has to live with your choices every single night. When the lights go out and the room is quiet, you are the only one who knows if you truly gave your best or if you settled for mediocrity to keep the peace. That is the only validation that matters. you have a choice. You can be a people pleaser and remain stuck where you are, or you can be a self-validator and take the lead. That's the key. You might be afraid of being judged. Let me give you a reality check. You are going to be judged regardless of what you do. If you succeed, they will judge you. If you fail, they will judge you. If you do nothing, they will still judge you. Since you are going to be judged anyway, you might as well do exactly what you want to do. You don't need their permission to be misunderstood. In fact, being misunderstood is often a prerequisite for doing something truly great. Silence the noise of the crowd to hear the command of your own ambition. Every time you feel the itch to check for approval, to see if people like your post, to see if they agree with your life choices, to see if they think you are on the right track, you need to snap out of it. Remind yourself, their opinion of me is not my responsibility. You have a choice. You can live for the applause of the audience, or you can live for the fulfillment of your mission. One leads to fame, the other leads to greatness. Repetition is essential. Every time you feel that pull of external validation, tell yourself, I do not need them to see it, I only need to do it. Keep your eyes on the work. When you stop caring about what they think, you gain a massive amount of mental energy. That energy was previously being wasted on managing your image. Now, you can funnel that energy into your execution. You become more productive, more focused, and more dangerous to your competition because you are no longer playing by their rules. You are not here to win a popularity contest. You are here to achieve your potential. The moment you stop seeking validation, you become bulletproof. Nobody can hold anything over you because you aren't looking for anything from them. You have a choice. Are you going to keep living for their fleeting praise, or are you going to start living for your own standards? That is the question that determines the trajectory of your life. As we wrap up this chapter, remember that you are now operating in a new space. You are internally driven. You are resilient. You are executing. But having this internal drive is only the first step. You must also have the structure to keep going when the initial excitement fades. You need a system that functions better than your emotions. That brings us to the next, most crucial pillar of your transformation, the transition from motivation to absolute discipline. You have stopped making excuses, sidelined your emotions, embraced the struggle, and killed your need for validation. You have built a strong foundation, but now you need the engine that keeps you moving when the initial spark is gone. That engine is discipline. Motivation is a fickle visitor. It shows up when things are easy and disappears the moment life gets difficult. You cannot rely on a feeling that is here today and gone tomorrow. Discipline, on the other hand, is your constant employee. It shows up because it is on the schedule, regardless of how you feel or what is happening around you. The world is full of people who are motivated. They buy the books, they set the goals, and they start with fire in their eyes. But look at them 3 months later. Most of them have quit. They quit because their motivation ran out, and they had no discipline to replace it. You must understand that discipline is not a feeling. It is a choice to act in alignment with your future self, even when your present self wants to take the easy way out. That's the key. Do the work when you don't feel like it. That is the only time it counts. It is easy to be disciplined when you are excited, rested, and ahead of schedule. That doesn't build character. Real character is built in the moments where you are exhausted, bored, or stressed, yet you choose to execute anyway. If you only do the work when you feel like it, You are not a professional. You are an amateur. You don't need their permission to be a person of discipline. You don't need their permission to show up when others have long since gone home. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. Without that bridge, your goals are nothing but fantasies. You can have the best plan, the best resources, and the best intentions. But if you lack the discipline to put in the hours, you will never get to the other side. You have a choice. You can continue to hope that motivation strikes, or you can build the infrastructure of discipline to ensure you succeed, regardless of whether you feel inspired. That's the key. Consistency is the ultimate competitive advantage. In a world that is obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and overnight success, the person who is simply consistent is almost unbeatable. While everyone else is looking for the newest trend, you are putting in the work day after day, week after week. You are compounding your effort. You are building momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. This is how you win. You don't need to be better than everyone else. You just need to be more consistent than everyone else. Repetition is how you cement this habit. Every day, look at your schedule and identify the one task you are most tempted to skip. That is your priority. Do that first. By forcing yourself to tackle the hardest, most boring task, you are reinforcing the fact that you are the master of your routine. You are not waiting for the right time. You are creating the right time. You have a choice. You can let your day happen to you, or you can dictate the terms of your day through disciplined action. You must view discipline as a form of self-love. When you are undisciplined, you are betraying your own goals. You are telling yourself that your future isn't worth the effort. When you are disciplined, you are honoring your potential. You are making a deposit into your future. You are building a track record of reliability. You don't need their permission to honor your own potential. You only need the willingness to hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else would. As you master the art of being disciplined when it is difficult, you will start to notice a shift in your identity. You will no longer view yourself as someone who tries to do things. You will view yourself as someone who gets them done. That is the shift from a temporary mindset to a permanent, bulletproof one. You have a choice. Be a person of temporary motivation, or be a person of permanent discipline. That is the fundamental choice of your life. Having mastered your own internal drive and the consistency of your actions, you are now prepared to address the inevitable moments when things go wrong. Because they will go wrong. You have built the engine, but now you need the ability to troubleshoot when the machine stumbles. We are moving into the reality of failure, and how to ensure that every failure is merely a data point for your eventual victory. You have established your discipline, but do not mistake discipline for perfection. You are going to fall. You are going to miss the mark. You are going to have days where your execution is flawed and your results are non-existent. Most people treat failure as a final verdict, a sign that they aren't meant for success. You must change your internal dictionary. Failure is a data point, not a definition. That's the key. The moment you fail, your instinct will be to attach meaning to it. You will want to say, "I am a failure." You must strip that meaning away immediately. A failure is simply an outcome that did not match your intention. It is objective information. It tells you that your current strategy did not work, or that your execution was insufficient. It does not tell you anything about your character, your worth, or your ultimate potential. Never let a single mistake define the entire scope of your capability. You have a choice. You can let failure be the end of your story, or you can let it be a vital plot point in your success. When you fail, you must shift into the mindset of a scientist. A scientist does not get emotional when an experiment fails. They analyze the data. Ask yourself, what went wrong? Was it the strategy? Was it the preparation? Was it the execution? Analyze the error, correct the trajectory, and move forward immediately. The speed at which you recover from a failure is the true measure of your toughness. Do not waste time in the misery of what if. Waste that time in the productivity of what's next. Successful people fail more often than unsuccessful ones. They just don't stop. This is a fundamental truth that the average person refuses to believe. They think success is a straight line, but it is a jagged, broken path. The difference between the winners and the losers is simply that the winners kept going after the 20th failure, while the losers decided that 19 was their limit. You don't need their permission to fail forward. You don't need their permission to keep going when everyone else would have quit. A setback is a lesson in disguise if you are willing to look at the data. If you lose a contract, ask yourself what you could have offered that you didn't. If you fail to hit a fitness goal, ask yourself if your nutrition was as disciplined as your workouts. If you get rejected, look at your pitch and your preparation. Every single time you lose, you are being given a free lesson on how to win. If you ignore the lesson, you have truly failed. If you take the lesson and apply it to the next attempt, you have made a profit. That's the key. Repetition is how you rewire your brain to stop fearing failure. Every time you trip, say out loud, "This is just data." Do not allow the shame to settle in. Shame is a weight that slows you down. Data is a tool that speeds you up. You have a choice. You can be paralyzed by the shame of your mistakes, or you can be accelerated by the wisdom gained from them. This is the difference between a victim mindset and a bulletproof mindset. You don't need to be perfect to be successful. You just need to be relentless. You need to be a person who absorbs the impact of failure and keeps moving forward without changing your stride. This is what it means to be unbreakable. You are not impervious to mistakes, but you are impervious to the discouragement that follows them. You have a choice. You can give up when the data suggests a setback, or you can use that data to refine your path toward victory. By now, you have learned to stop explaining, to master your emotions, to welcome discomfort, to ignore the crowd, to enforce discipline, and to analyze failure. You have the engine, the strategy, and the recovery protocol. But your performance is still vulnerable if you are not careful about who and what you let into your mental space. We have built the castle. Now, you must learn to stand at the gates and guard it. We are going to discuss the importance of your mental boundaries next. You have mastered the art of learning from failure, but you must now protect the progress you have built. Your mind is a fortress, and every day there are forces trying to breach your gates. These forces come in the form of negative people, toxic news cycles, mindless entertainment, and your own doubts. If you do not actively defend your mental space, you will find it cluttered with things that have no business being there. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. Do not let negativity enter. That's the key. Be ruthlessly selective about the information and people you allow in. You only have a finite amount of mental energy to spend each day. Every interaction you have, every piece of content you consume, and every conversation you engage in consumes a portion of that energy. If you are spending your mental currency on drama, gossip, or cynical news, you have nothing left to invest in your own goals. You don't need their permission to cut people off. mute notifications, or walk away from conversations that drain your spirit. You have a choice. You can let your surroundings define your state of mind, or you can curate your environment to serve your mission. If it does not serve your goal, it does not deserve your mental space. This is a harsh rule, but it is necessary for anyone who wants to be bulletproof. When you are on a path of growth, not everyone will be able to follow you. Some people will be jealous of your discipline. Others will be intimidated by your commitment. They will try to pull you back down to their level because your progress makes them uncomfortable. You don't need their permission to protect your vision. Guard it as if your life depends on it, because in a very real sense, your success does. Your focus is your greatest currency. Spend it only on what matters. Think of your attention as a laser. When the beam is scattered, it is harmless. When it is focused, it can cut through steel. Where are you directing your focus right now? Is it on the things that move you toward your goals, or is it on the distractions that keep you occupied? You have a choice. You can let the world fragment your attention into a million pieces, or you can guard your mental boundaries and keep your focus locked on your target. That's the key. Repetition is how you reinforce these boundaries. When you find yourself getting dragged into something that doesn't matter, say to yourself, "This does not serve my mission." Practice the art of saying no. Say no to unnecessary meetings, say no to toxic social media feeds, and say no to people who want to vent their negativity onto you. You don't need to be rude, but you must be firm. Your boundaries are not a suggestion. They are a requirement for your success. Understand that your environment is either helping you or hurting you. There is no neutral ground. If your circle of friends constantly talks about how hard life is and why things won't work, that environment is working against your bulletproof mindset. You don't need their permission to elevate your circle. You don't need their permission to seek out people who are operating at a higher frequency. You have a choice. You can stay in the current environment that keeps you small, or you can move toward an environment that demands your best. By guarding your boundaries, you are ensuring that your internal environment remains consistent regardless of how chaotic the external world becomes. This is how you maintain your composure and your discipline over the long term. You have a choice. You can be a victim of your surroundings, or you can be the architect of your own atmosphere. This brings us to the next level of your transformation. Once you have built your internal strength and secured your boundaries, you are ready to play the long game. We are going to discuss how to apply this to the ultimate test. The relentless, unwavering persistence that separates the legends from the rest. You have fortified your mind and secured your boundaries. Now, you must prepare for the final, ultimate test of your character. The test of time. Many people can be disciplined for a week. Some can even be disciplined for a month. But very few have the capacity to remain consistent over the years. Persistence is not a sprint. It is an unwavering, long-term commitment. That's the key. The world is designed to make you quit. You will face unexpected failures, financial droughts, personal crises, and periods where you see zero results despite your massive effort. This is the plateau of latent potential. This is where most people abandon their goals. You must understand that most people quit just before the breakthrough occurs. Stay the course. You don't need their permission to keep grinding when the rewards haven't manifested yet. You have a choice. You can stop now and ensure your failure, or you can keep pushing and give yourself the opportunity to win. The person who never gives up is mathematically destined to win. Success is rarely about one big lucky break. It is about showing up consistently until the odds turn in your favor. If you refuse to stop, you remove the possibility of defeat. You become a force of nature. You don't need their permission to outlast the competition. You don't need their permission to be the one who is still standing when everyone else has walked away. Refuse to be outworked, outlasted, or outmaneuvered. This is your internal mantra. When you are tired, remember that your competitors are tired too. When you are frustrated, remember that everyone else is dealing with the same level of resistance. The difference is that you have decided not to stop. You have a choice. You can be someone who waits for the easy path, or you can be someone who carves their own path through the rock. That's the key. Repetition is your anchor. On the days when you feel like you have nothing left, repeat this. Persistence is my competitive advantage. Remind yourself that every day you stay in the game is another day you are gaining ground that no one else is willing to fight for. You are building equity in your future. You don't need their permission to be stubborn about your goals. Understand that persistence is a muscle that grows with usage. In the beginning, it will feel like you are pushing a boulder uphill. Over time, that same action becomes your normal rhythm. You will start to realize that you don't even have to try to persist anymore. It just becomes who you are. You have a choice. You can be a person who gives up at the first sign of trouble, or you can be a person whose persistence is legendary. This level of persistence is the bedrock of greatness. It is what transforms a temporary project into a life-changing success. You are no longer acting on short-term whims. You are building a legacy. You have a choice. You can be a flash in the pan, or you can be a mountain that stands for years. That's the key. Now that you have committed to the long game, you must understand that there is one final, overarching requirement for your total victory. You cannot just be a player in someone else's narrative. You must be the one holding the pen. We are going to move into the final stage of your transformation, taking absolute, total ownership of the life you are creating. That is the subject of our next chapter. You have learned to persist through the darkest periods, but persistence alone is not enough if you are still playing the victim in your own life. Many people spend their existence blaming the economy, their upbringing, their partners, or their luck for where they are today. As long as you believe someone or something else is responsible for your circumstances, you remain a prisoner. You are the author of your life. Take responsibility for every chapter. That's the key. Stop playing the victim in your own story and start playing the hero. A victim looks for people to blame. A hero looks for solutions to execute. A victim waits for someone to come and save them. A hero recognizes that they are the only person who can save themselves. You don't need their permission to stop blaming the world. You don't need their permission to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have a choice. You can be the helpless character in a tragedy, or you can be the protagonist in a story of triumph. That's the key. Your past does not dictate your future. unless you allow it to. It is easy to point to your history and say, "This is why I am the way I am." That is a convenient excuse for inaction, but it is not the truth. Your past is merely a set of events. You are the one who decides what those events mean for your future. If you want to change your life, you must change the narrative you tell yourself about who you are. You don't need their permission to rewrite your identity. Take total ownership of your situation, your results, and your destiny. This is the most empowering decision you will ever make. When you own your results, you own your power. If you are failing, own it, and then fix it. If you are succeeding, own it, and then scale it. When you stop looking for external excuses, you suddenly find that you have a nearly infinite capacity to influence your outcomes. You have a choice. You can continue to be a victim of your circumstances, or you can be the creator of your reality. That's the key. Repetition is the tool that replaces your victim mentality with an ownership mentality. Every time a problem arises, stop yourself from complaining. Instead, ask, "How can I own this?" Ask, "What part of this result did I create?" When you take full responsibility, you stop being a passenger. You take the steering wheel. You don't need their permission to stop complaining. You don't need their permission to take charge of your life. Understand that ownership is not about self-flagellation. It is about self-empowerment. If you blame yourself, you are just being self-critical. If you take responsibility, you are being strategic. Strategy is what builds a bulletproof life. You have a choice. You can keep complaining about your life, or you can start taking ownership and changing it. You are now at the threshold of total transformation. You have stripped away the excuses, mastered your emotions, embraced the struggle, guarded your boundaries, and built relentless persistence. You have stepped into the role of the creator of your own story. Now, there is only one final step: cementing this identity so that it is no longer something you are trying to do, but who you truly are. We are heading into the final chapter, where we solidify the unbreakable identity you have fought so hard to build. You have come a long way. You started this journey believing that toughness was a trait you were either born with or you weren't. You now know the truth. True toughness is an identity, not a temporary state of mind. It is something you decide to inhabit, every single hour of every single day. You have built this identity through your choices, your discipline, and your refusal to quit. Now it is time to cement it. Live every day as someone who is already built to last. That's the key. Being bulletproof is not about having a day where you do everything right. It is about the internal decision that you are a person who does not break. When you face the next crisis, and you will face one, you won't have to try to be tough. You will simply be tough, because that is who you are. You have a choice. You can continue to borrow strength from temporary motivation, or you can embody the strength of your own identity. You don't need their permission to be the person who survives and thrives. You don't need their permission to be the one who stands firm when the walls are collapsing. Your mindset is the only thing you truly control in this life. You cannot control the market. You cannot control the opinions of others. and you cannot control the obstacles that life throws at your feet. But you have complete, absolute control over how you interpret those obstacles and how you react to them. This is your power. It is an internal fortress that no one can breach unless you open the gates. Guard it. Refine it. Keep it ironclad. You are now bulletproof. Act accordingly. This means that when things go wrong, you do not panic. You assess. When you feel tired, you do not quit. You pace. When you are criticized, you do not crumble. You evaluate. You are no longer the person who reacts to the world. You are the person who influences it. You have a choice. You can live in the shadow of your potential, or you can step into the light of your own power. That's the key. Repetition is the final step. Remind yourself every morning, I am unbreakable. When you face a challenge today, act as the version of you that has already succeeded. You have already done the work. You have already built the habits. Now you are just living the results. You don't need their permission to be successful. You don't need their permission to be a person of character. You only need your own commitment. This is the end of the guide, but it is the beginning of your life as a force of nature. Take everything you have learned and embed it into your routine. Do not let these words be just another piece of content you consumed. Make them the operating system of your life. You have a choice. You can go back to the way you were, or you can walk forward as someone who can never be stopped. That is your decision, and it is the only one that truly matters. You have reached the end of this guide, but this is the starting point of your new reality. You now know that toughness is not a trait you are born with. It is a structure you build, brick by brick, through every decision you make. You are no longer the person who breaks under pressure. You are the person who thrives because of it. Now, go out and prove it. Apply these truths starting with the very next task on your list. Subscribe to the channel to keep your mindset sharpened and share this with someone who needs to hear the truth. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and become unstoppable. Subscribe our channel.